Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and let's chat about what is happening up in the stars above us today, September 16th, 2020. That means tomorrow is the 17th, and we're going to be visited by Pia Orlean and Cullen Baird-Smith to talk about the Pleiadian-Earth energy calendar and the new book that they have written. I was just going to show you the book. This isn't the new book. This is the Pleiadian-Earth energy astrology book, the calendar that goes with it, which I still haven't received my 2021, but pretty soon I will have my 2021, and they're going to talk to us about all of that and some of the changes for the 2021 version of the calendar. So I'm really excited for that. Join us here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. As usual. I'm sorry, about a minute late. I had to check on multitudes of people today, make sure they're all doing well. I've got Debbie down in Florida who is, being soaked by Sally and having, issues with tornadoes and floods and, oh my Lord, all of that. And then all of us here on the West Coast, again, either shrouded in smoke because we're living near the fires, or shrouded in smoke because it's drifting miles and miles away from where the fires are. So sending blessings out to everybody affected by anything out there, as we are in our collective shadow period starting last Friday and not ending until the end of this month. So our shadow's up, right? It's all coming up to the surface. It's so funny, you guys, because yesterday I was having a conversation with my oldest son. And he's a Leo. That's about all I can say. He's a Leo with an Aquarius rising sign. So he's, got different points of view on things, and not always the point of view that I think, is right. But, hey, it's his point of view, right? And he even said, Mom, it's like everybody's belief shit is coming up to the surface. I don't know what is up. And I said, that's what's up, right? It's that all of those shadows, all of the dark places are being sort of either burned off, flooded out, or brought up for us to heal. And that is always necessary before we go into, sorry, I left my fan on this morning. That is always necessary before we go into what is an evolutionary leap. And that is what we have been talking about. Literally for years, we've been talking ascension, which was a word that I thought got old and tired out, but essentially it's the movement of our collective from one level to the next, right? It doesn't mean there's a whole new world, like this earth is going to blink out and a new world is going to blink in, but literally in a blink, things can change, as I discovered so on Friday night. And it's amazing to me how quickly things can move once that shadow is up and you choose to move through it or not, right? So something is going to change. And right, it can almost leave us breathless at times. So reminding you that tomorrow, again, 8 a.m. right here, we'll have Pia and Cullen on to be able to help us maybe talk more about the shadow time. And she is also going to take us through what the 10 manifesting energy is tomorrow as well, since we'll be at a 10-day tomorrow. Now for us today, we're going to talk a bit about today's moon in Virgo. Not much, because we've already kind of exhausted what we need to know about that, but we're going to transition that information to the new moon. So the new moon will be at 25 degrees of Virgo tomorrow morning, quite early, 7 a.m. for those of you on the East Coast, 4 a.m. for those of us here in the West Coast. And that will signal a new beginning, but a new beginning into what? So especially because there is that Mars squaring Saturn, that's slowing things down. So there are some things that we need to talk about with this new moon. And then we will talk a bit about the fourth house, right? We're moving into the next house in our round, our zodiac round. Today is the fourth house. And then we'll talk a little bit about the 9 transcending energy from the Pleiadian-Earth energy for today. 9 being a number of harmonizing and bringing things together. How interesting, right? All right, let me go back over here to YouTube and say good morning to everybody. Hello, Amy and Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel. Good to have you with us. Camilla and Elisa, good morning. Asa, hello there. Amanda J, great to see you. And Camilla says, excited for tomorrow's show. I am too. I cannot. I'm almost hyperventilating. I'm so excited about it. And Ingrid, good morning to you. Pauline, good morning. And Ingrid, you said buongiorno. That's like Italian, right? I love it. J-Lo, good morning to you. Pauline says weather mirrors humanity's hidden emotions, anger, hate, fire. Ooh, yes. Angela K, good morning to you. Loanne, hello. Courtney, hello. Ursula, hello. And Laura Hammer, good morning to you. So it's great to have all of you with us this morning, and anybody else who's listening from behind the scenes. We're sending out love and healing energy and protection energy for everybody who's experiencing any of the wildness going on in the world at the moment. So let's talk about today's moon and set the stage for what will be tomorrow's new moon. The moon today in Virgo, let's see, this morning, as of the moment I drew up the chart, it is at 11 degrees of Virgo. That means in the middle of the night, I had my moon return. Mimi, yours is coming. Anybody else who has their moon in Virgo is about to have a lunar return of sorts. And that signals a time when a new moon cycle starts for you, right? Personally. And then on top of that, today, the moon in Virgo is coming into a trine with Uranus, a trine with Jupiter, and an opposition to Neptune. So we have a mixed bag kind of day as we set our intentions and goals, or we get prepared for the new moon. We are likely looking at the results of some of these surprises or changes that have been brought to our lives, a la weather or fire or personal relationship issues, financial issues, health issues, whatever it is that has come to light. Here in the dark of the moon is where we go into the cocoon and we determine what it is that we're going to do next. How are we going to approach this? And it would be suggestive for us to be careful about what we do next, because Virgo is very fastidious, right? Very sort of nitpicky and perfectionistic. So we want to make sure that our plans don't have holes in them as we move forward. So today we get that opportunity to go within, look and see where the weaknesses might be, and how is it that we can, plug those holes or, get more steady and more practical in our application of our lives. The trine to Jupiter is really positive. The moon and her emotions with Jupiter can magnify the more negative energies, but it can also bring a dose of optimism and a sort of feeling that all is right with the world, even if it's crazy, even if there are some wild and weary things that are happening. This morning, my husband sent me a picture off Facebook of my grandson, my youngest one, with his dad and his mom. They're out camping, unbelievably, but it lifted my spirits, right? Just to see that baby little smile, it made me feel like there is something worth living for. There is something, not that I was not thinking of living, but there's something that's worth our staying here and keeping our minds and our hearts focused on the world that we want to leave for our children, right? Our children, they need us. Oh dear, my battery's running low because I forgot to plug in. I should probably spend less time texting and talking to people in the mornings. Okay, we're back to power. So there is definitely something worth saving, right? That those little faces, right, of your children's children or your own children, right? You look into those little faces and okay, I have work to do, right? I have work to do because I need to leave them a planet that's worth living for and living upon. So it filled me with some optimism and some hope for this particular world. Now, later in the day, the opposition to Neptune will cloud again our senses, making things easier perhaps for us to hear our intuition, perhaps our inner voice being a little bit louder today, just because it can come in much easier. And you know how it is. Like I noticed yesterday as I was out and about in what is haze. I mean, we're in the Pacific Northwest, we're kind of used to fog this time of year as we transition into fall. But this isn't fog because, I mean, it is fog, but it's mixed with smoke because it's so smelly, right? You know what it is. But it doesn't mean that everybody is with it, because so many people were out there driving without their headlights on, doing things erratically. And I'm like, yeah, people get a grip. But I noticed in my own self that because I couldn't see as clearly, my other senses were heightened. Like I could hear better. Like I just sensed that there was a car coming that I needed to slow down for, and that kind of thing. So right now it's perhaps good for us to have our other senses heightened, our sixth senses, our ability to tap into another way of knowing, as well as our five regular senses. So today we may have that happening for us as well. There are no other major planetary aspects today. Now, tomorrow there are quite a few, but I want to devote tomorrow's show to Pia and Cullen. So don't be surprised if I come on as an afterthought, or maybe come on as an afterthought later today with some more information. Or maybe I'll get Asa some graphics to make, because there's some, pretty hefty things coming up tomorrow along with that new moon that we want to be aware of. So I'm going to dive into some of those here this morning, before we talk about the fourth house, so that you'll have, the information that you need to get through this new moon. So comments, questions, what's going on with everybody out here this morning? JLo says, woo, I'm setting stable foundations in the doctor's office. Ironic, they switched it for today. Awesome. Suzette, good morning. I don't know why YouTube is monitoring comments for me, but okay. After Suzette says, sending love back to all of you. I don't know why that was worthy of holding back, but oh well. J-Lo says, please take a moment to hit the like button. Please do. Love the showing some love for the channel, for my work, and subscribing if you're new and haven't been here before. And also you can set notifications to be notified when I come on air live. Mimi says, yep, lunar energy coming in. And Mimi, last night before I went to bed, I thought, I am so tired. And I'm like, what's making me feel so tired? And then I realized, I actually haven't had my lunar return yet. That was happening at 1 a.m. Thank you very much. So I was in the very dark of my own personal moon. So no wonder I was more tired and more lethargic. I mean, I could barely get myself out of my chair to go to bed. So when I went to bed, I just passed out. I didn't wake up either until like 4:30 this morning. So that was pretty interesting. Christine Buckingham, good morning. And J-Lo, or not J-Lo, I've already read that comment. Thank you though, J-Lo. Monique, hello. Sylvester, grand rising, lovely people, sending love and positive vibes your way. We need them, we welcome them, we love them, and we send them back your way as well, Sylvester. Okay, now let me go back over here to Zoom. I'm going to share my screen with the new moon chart on it. So one moment while I make sure that chart is up for everybody to see. And September, there we go. And now you should be seeing the new moon chart. This is actually set for Washington, D.C., which is at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, the new moon in Eastern time zone. For those of you who are in Europe, in the universal time zone, that will be at 11 a.m. So all of us pretty much have the new moon tomorrow morning. And for us on the West Coast, 4 a.m. and very early. So you'll have to get up early if you want to be there for that moment. And it's interesting that it happens right on the hour. I think like 7 a.m. and 6 seconds or something like that. So it's kind of an interesting new moon. If we look at the chart, the first thing I always do is I look and see, okay, so not so much paying attention to the houses, but where, what's hanging with the sun and the moon, right, during the new moon. And what we see is that the part of fortune is sitting right here with it. So there's something fortunate in this new moon that I think is under the surface, perhaps. If you note that the new moon and the part of fortune, they're in an inconjunct. Follow this green dashed line over here to goddess Eris, who has, as usual, been stirring the pot, and also very close to that inconjunct with Black Moon Lilith and is definitely in an inconjunct to Mars, all sitting right here. You see these 3 tick lines. That's where the 3 of them are sitting at the very last degrees of Aries, while these are all sitting at the very last degrees of Virgo. So we have an inconjunct, which means that there's some, stuff going on here with this new moon that we have to square with. And I don't use square in the terminology of astrology, that just some things that we're going to have to adjust and maybe sacrifice and let go of, surrender perhaps. And those are the things that are going to be the triggers for our growth during this period of time. Here, we're going to need to balance perhaps our own intentions with the actions that we can take and with the goals and actions of others, right? Maybe they're sort of at cross purposes right now. One set of people going in one direction. Doesn't this kind of sound like the USA right now? One set of people in Team Trump and another set of people in Team Biden, and creating a bigger divide, a bigger split. Not necessarily a positive thing, but it is something that triggers growth. And all we have to do is choose how we deal with this energy. How do we choose with this split? This is a time, though, where irritation can boil up from the surface or from below the surface, boiling right up into the daily lives and in creating the possibility of impulsive actions, tantrums, right? And all of these things where people just are so frustrated, they're so angry that they strike at the heart of something. And so we're all on that last nerve, kind of last edge. And what is it that you can do? Well, the antidote here is to balance your personal desires and your personal dreams, your personal wishes, right? The action that you so badly want to take with selflessness, right? What is in the best interest of all concerned? So the way that we solve an inconjunct like this, and this is a pretty powerful one, although it is not the most powerful aspect during this particular moon, but we'll need to balance our own needs with the needs of others. And the more that we lean into being selfless, the more that it paves the way for our own actions to be smoothed over at where we can move forward. Now, the new moon always signals a new beginning, and it is a new beginning that is around the issues of the sign that the new moon is happening in, and further defined by the house in your own personal chart that the new moon is happening in. So if this were the chart of a person, so it's not, but let's just pretend for the moment that this is a chart of a person. This person's personal new moon would be occurring in the 12th house of the hidden psychology of something, the hidden self-sabotaging, the hidden limits and blocks and resistance that this person is generating on their own from patterns established in the past. So they have a real opportunity with this new moon to let go of the patterns of the past, or to say to the universe, show me the patterns that are holding me back, and show me how I can move forward in spite of that. So that 12th house, a house of secrets, a house of the hidden, we might expect that this person has a lot of inner work that might be triggered during this period of time, if this were a person. But this is a chart of a moment in time based on the East Coast. If I did this for the West Coast, it would look a little bit different. So we can't really use houses when we're dealing with a chart like this for a government or so forth, just because it could be different by wherever we place that in that time zone. So, but we can look and say, okay, this is all happening in Virgo. What is Virgo about? So this is a time to set goals and intentions, especially around all things Virgo. What's all things Virgo? Organization, right? Cleaning up, tidying up, organizing, being practical and down to earth, health and healing. It's about your physical body, your diet, exercise. Maybe it's a great time to set intentions for a new way of eating, a new way of exercising or being with your physical body. Maybe it's time to see a new physician. Maybe you've been seeing Western medicine. Maybe it's time to get out there and maybe see some more alternative healers and maybe deal with the symptoms and not just throwing out a bunch of, dealing with the causes, excuse me, not just the symptoms of whatever is ailing you. Maybe it's time for you to focus on your work or your job. That's also part of the Virgo experience. Maybe in a change in the environment in your work, maybe new people coming. I noticed at my husband's work, it seems like lately there's been a lot of people sort of retiring. And so retirement parties and things like that have been happening. And it's always interesting to watch these cycles, right? As the population ages, people retire and new people come in. So it creates changes at both ends, right? As the people leave, new people come in. So our work, our job, the work that we actually do, our job assignments may be in flux. How we serve, how we share our gifts and our talents, also a part of this new moon, perfecting, analyzing, what are we overly focused on? Sometimes Virgo can get very tunnel visioned in focused on the details of something. So maybe you've been too widely focused and you need to come in and see the details. One or the other, it's asking us to, open up a bit to be able to see both the details and the bigger picture and how they all fit together, right? You can't just see the puzzle by just the little piece that you have. You have to look at the bigger picture to see where it fits in with everything. Where do you fit in, right? Where do your gifts and talents need to be brought forth to be shared with the greater collective? And it's time for practical solutions to onerous issues. My words, I wrote that: time for practical solutions to onerous issues. What has been dogging you maybe all summer, maybe since 2020, not speaking of the virus at all, just what is it that you've been sort of mucking around with that you can now apply some real practical, organized thinking to, that will then translate into goals and action steps that are, again, grounded and practical. So we have some really good energy. I mean, all in all, this is not a new moon that makes me shiver, although, that in conjunct with the new moon, sun and moon with Mars makes me a little bit uncomfortable. But there's also, in the behind the scenes, this aspect of Mars in a square to Saturn. And Mars is retrograde right now. And in that, here's Mars right here, right? It's sitting this last tick line right here in Aries. And then Saturn is this last tick line right here in Capricorn, both of them at 25 degrees. There is, let's see, that's with the new moon. So we have a trine between Saturn and the new moon, but we have this square between Mars retrograde and Saturn. Now that's been in effect since early part of September. It's in effect all the way through October 9th. So this one is a long-term kind of transit that has been creating frustration. We feel inhibited, held back from our usual round of activity. So wherever Aries is in your chart, specifically about 27 degrees of Aries, and where about 25, 26 degrees of Capricorn is, that's where we're being challenged in our own personal lives right now to work through the square energy. And that means also it limits our actions, right? We're kind of feeling a little bit in a box, or, there's the saying that, you're being forced through the eye of the needle. And that's kind of another feeling like, all of that excess baggage that won't fit with you going through that eye has to be released, thrown off, cast away. And sometimes that's harder for us to do than to actually move forward. We want to move forward, but we want to take all the crap with us. Can't do it this time. We can't do it with this new moon. With Mars in a square to Saturn, we are shedding the old in preparation for the new. We might have to do a complete mind dump during this period of time, taking all of our thinking, all of our beliefs, all of our patterns, leaving them so that we enter into this new moon with a tabula rasa, right? A blank slate. All the things you thought you believed in, all of those theories, those hypotheses, those experiences that you thought have showed you what the real truth is, you might have to leave them behind as you move forward. It's best to find whatever openings are available to you. in a way, it's like taking a defensive position, right? In a football game, of course, I'm going to use football. There's always the offense and then there's the defense, right? Sometimes you are playing the offense and you're moving forward, you're advancing the ball down the field. At other times, you are protecting your territory. If you're on the defense, you are making sure that that ball from the other team doesn't get any further than it has to get. You're hopefully, wanting to find that opening that you can take that ball and you can run it. Right? That's defense. So for us right now, the best approach might be to wait for the defending where we are at the moment. And I'm not saying defending from fear. I'm just saying taking that defensive posture, sort of waiting and seeing what it is that is going to open up. And then when the opening comes, you advance through that opening instead of pushing up against that front line, right? You don't want to hit that O line because they're big, right? Those linebackers are huge. They're going to stop you. They're going to block you. So instead, find the one opening, right? The one person that moved too far to the left, and you can find your way through. All right. So that's the best approach during this time. The harder you push during this time period, the more resistance you're likely going to meet up with. So best not to push, right? Best to just hold the line, see what opens up, and move when it becomes available without making yourself feel irritated, frustrated, or upset that that's the way things are happening, because it just is the way things are happening. There's nothing we can do to change that. Now, the new moon, possibly the biggest, the most positive, let's say, aspect during this new moon is the new moon in a trine. That's this blue line right here to Saturn. So again, we have Saturn popping up in our field. And this is, by the way, the second new moon that has occurred like this. The last new moon was in August, right around the same date. I think it was August 18th. And it was a little more prickly, right? It was a prickly new moon. This one's prickly, but for a reason. Right now, we're starting to see what things are coalescing around our next steps. This is a time, then, this particular new moon is also pretty close to a trine to Pluto as well. Pluto's sitting at 22 degrees, so it's really within orb, if we will use 3 degrees as our leeway, of relationship actions. So we have the new moon in a trine with Saturn, almost exact, and one just a little bit off with Pluto. So we're serious, we're responsible, we're practical, we are good stewards of our time and our resources. We are resourceful during this period of time. This is a very grounding influence for all of us. And it's made stronger because of the Mars square Saturn as well. And it's a stronger aspect even than the quincunx between the moon, the new moon, and Mars. And it's stronger than the Mars square Saturn. So this one can override. So it shows us that we have a pathway out of that conundrum, if you will, of that quincunx, and also the conundrum of Mars squaring Saturn. But we just have to look at what it is that we're focusing on. Are we focusing on the problem and the lack of solutions, or are we focused on what more is possible, right? What is opening up for us? What is the potential solution that we could find here? There is huge potential during this new moon period of time, which, by the way, the new moon window strongest in the first 48 hours, but lasts up until the full moon, right? So the new moon is activated up until the full moon. After that, everything begins to change, right? It begins to wane in influence. So think about it as about a 2-week period of time where these things can find their way into sort of a fruition or into some form of revelation for you, because that's what the new moon is moving toward, right? The full moon of revelation. So the potential exists for success, for reward, for recognition, for being able to solve even the worst problems that you think that you have in this particular moment. So to me, when I look at this, I see potential. I see potential for upset as well. Remember, this is falling squarely in our collective shadow period. So likely we're dealing with the shadow before we can move on into the light. But that doesn't mean the light isn't there. Let the light be your guide, that you're moving toward the light. And the light is the pathway that is opening up in front of you. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. What's the mood out there, Asa? How's everybody looking? I don't see any comments there, so hopefully everybody's got this. Let's see, Sylvester, in July, I got diagnosed with CKD, stage 3. I do not know what that is, I'm afraid. So CKD, chronic something, I don't know. And today I just found out I have arthritis in my back and have to use a cane. I'm going to look for a walking stick so I can be a powerful wizard. I love it. I love it. Sometimes those stores like Journeys, there's a store here in one of the malls called Journeys, and they always have the most wonderful wizardy kind of things. A metaphysical store might have something like that. I think that would be fun to get, make it fun, make it light. And also sending healing energy to you. Maybe this is a healing time for you as well, Sylvester. Courtney, my new moon and natal moon is in my 12th house. Very timely. Thank you. You're very welcome. Jennifer Peachy, hello to you. And J-Lo says, OMG, I was searching things up on her. I'm not sure her who, probably part of a conversation we were having. Hey, Taylor, it's good to see you. Ursula, my 22-degree Virgo ascendant and 20-degree Virgo sun will be talking to me. Will be, they are talking to you, right? If you have a 22-degree Virgo ascendant, that means the moon is going to be crossing over your ascendant. So you're looking at coming out of the dark, if you will, Ursula. And maybe that even bodes well for, the air clearing a bit for California, even maybe coming out of the darkness of that, maybe some practical work that's been being done, to create a way for those fires to be contained. Ursula says, where do I belong has been a major life theme, and you belong wherever you are, right? That's the thing I think we learned with Virgo, and maybe Virgo people are learning this lesson in the most difficult way right now, is that everything is perfect in the moment, right? Wherever you are is where you are. And that is perfect. Now, tomorrow may be a different day. Tomorrow you may be in a different house. Tomorrow you may be moving. Tomorrow you may be in a different mood altogether. But right now, everything in this moment is perfect. And the more that we fit into that, right, the more that we realize that in this place right now, there's a bunch of baloney going on out there in my outer world. There's, fires, there's floods, there's wind, there's storm surges, there's all kinds of stuff. But right here, sitting at my desk, talking with all of you, everything is perfect, right? In this moment, I'm breathing, I'm talking, I feel perfectly fine. Now, 10 minutes from now, things might be different. I don't know that. So the more that we stay in the now moment, the more that we can see that perfection in the moment. And we can see the perfection even in all of the steps that have led us to this particular moment in time. Then later we can see the perfection of all the things that have brought us from this moment and into the future moments. So chronic kidney disease. Well, you and my kitty cat, Sylvester, I gotcha. I get that I know because it's difficult for me to try to keep her water balanced, keep her from dehydrating, and she can't tell me when she's thirsty. She just goes to her water, but sometimes that's a symptom sometimes of her actually being more dehydrated because of her losing fluids. So we're sending you healing energy, Sylvester. I would look to where Libra is in your astrology chart. Whatever house that is might be where you can do some healing work around being able to heal this chronic kidney disease. Asa, all wizards need a staff. Yes, indeed. Sending you healing light and love. I love that. Taylor, what could Mars trine Pluto mean? And yes, sending healing. Mars trine Pluto. Mars and Pluto work really well together, Taylor. And a trine is a relationship where they work well together. Mars being the action principle and Pluto being a transformation energy. So Mars and Pluto likely work together to turn your life upside down every once in a while, or turn parts of your life upside down and cause transformation, i.e. growth and expansion, movement. And those kinds of things are what you would want to look toward, those houses that are involved there, and how that might bring upset. And if I remember correctly, are you a Scorpio or a Sagittarius? So those are the ruling planets, I think, of Scorpio. So you might look to wherever Scorpio is in your chart as well. Camilla, my natal moon is 5 degrees Virgo, house 5. Hey, you and I have the same natal moon degree. My Pluto is at 5 degrees of Virgo. My moon is at 8 degrees of Virgo. So that's interesting. Mars was about to hit my ascendant and he became retrograde, which I'm happy because I already have too much on my plate. Well, that is going to happen to you, and it will likely happen right after, between Christmas and New Year's, right after the New Year, excuse me, because he's going to be at 28, he's going to move into, he'll be at 28 degrees on January 2nd. So January 2nd, 3rd, 4th area is when he's going to hit the 29th degree. So expect a very busy going into the new year for you, Camilla. So try to, get things as, organized as you can during this new moon. And then maybe things will just fall into place for you as the next couple of months unfold. Asa, Brandon, Esteban, I healed my incurable diseases by eating raw pasture-raised animal products. A guy named Jonas van der Planets on YouTube is all you need to know. There's a lot of good information out there like that, Brandon, and thank you for being a listener here this morning. You're new. I haven't seen you before, so welcome. And there are other people out there as well. All you really have to do is follow your own intuition when you do a search, perhaps on Google for, natural healing of kidney disease, and see what happens there. Always follow your doctor's advice though, right? Don't misconstrue anything that we say here in the morning as our tacit approval for you to go and change up a regimen, right? You always do that with your doctor's guidance. Sylvester says, thank you, Ace. I'll be a powerful wizard spreading healing energy to the world. My Libra is in the 4th house. Sylvester, we're going to be talking about the 4th house here. So you present me with an awesome segue into helping you even understand maybe what chronic kidney disease is a mirror for in your life through the house relationship in your astrology chart. So thank you for that. That was perfect timing. I'm going to bring up an image right now. So let me share my screen. We'll use this image first. So, we've been doing a series on, why isn't it? Oh, there you are. Sorry. We've been doing a series on the houses in astrology. And so today we're up to the 4th house, which is the house of family and home and roots. And it's also a part of your ancestral connection, your genetics, right? Your family, your DNA, family DNA, let's call it. And this is also the house of mother, and of your female relatives are often in this house. It is the energy of the foundation, our very stable foundation or our very upsetting foundation, and how we will work to create safety and security in our lives. But let's start with a little bit of a review here. We started at the 1st house, which is, of course, the house of I am, the house of the self, how you look, your body, your first impressions, your attitude, your identity, your approach to life through your viewpoint. Right? The sign here on the ascendant is the gateway to how it is that you are going to show up personally in the world. From the I am, we went to the I have house, right? Where money and work and income are an important part of your strategy for survival on this planet. Or is it survival or is it thriving, right? Hopefully we're moving towards thriving. And in the 2nd house, we also have our possessions. The values we hold dictate to us what it is that we spend our money on, right? Some people are going to spend money on education products. Some people are going to spend money on artistic endeavors, on decoration, on furniture, on toys, many different things, right, that are driven by the values of the person who has whatever energy and whatever planets in the 2nd house. So your priorities and your habits and how you spend your money, all of that coming through here. And the 3rd house, last week we talked about, is the mind. It is about I think, and it is the mind, the thinking, communication, how you learn. Are you a quick learner? Do you have issues learning? What a neighborhood or environment supports you best for learning? All of that comes in there. It is also the house of your siblings and your neighbors, your roommates or school chums, all through your interaction with those kinds of people, sort of like 1 degree out from your home family right now. Today we move to the house of home, and the home roots, family, self-care, emotions, or our emotional foundations, more than likely, our mother, and how it is that we support or feel supported in our world. So let me go to the right page here. There we go. So this is what the fourth house would look like. Let me stop sharing this one. And let's see if it will take me to the other one. Screen sharing has stopped. Okay, I like that. Let me go to now just the fourth house. I don't think I even need to do that. I think you guys probably got that. Yeah, that's fine. I won't need to share the screen. Okay, so the fourth house corresponds to Cancer. So in the natural zodiac, it begins with Aries. The second house is ruled by Taurus. Third house ruled by Gemini. Fourth house ruled by Cancer, and thus the moon. So you already can get a feel for why it is this is the house of our emotional foundations. It takes us to the very heart and core of how we were nurtured when we were young, right? And how we then are, from that nurturing, are able to go out and be a responsible adult. And then as we move further into our adult life and we have our own children, what do we take from that early foundation into our raising of our children? So we start to see already the genetic linkage or the ancestral linkage through the fourth house, right? It passes from, in this way, mother to children. But also the father in some cases, because in our day life now, sometimes it's the father that is the nurturer. So it doesn't have to just be mother. It is whatever parent was the most nurturing, right? In most families from years back, it was the mother, right? The mother stayed home. The mother was responsible for the home, for the raising and educating of the children, for the setting of the values, and the father went off to work. Well, of course, that changed, right? And now we have all different combinations of mothers and fathers. We have different, fathers staying home with the kids. We have 2 father families. We have 2 mother families. We have mother-father families. We have mother off to work, dad staying home, and mother staying home, father off to work. We have both parents out of the house and maybe an aunt, a grandmother, or a caregiver. So we have all of these new definitions in this particular fourth house about what quantifies, what qualifies as family and what qualifies as roots and foundation. This is also the house of traditions. Note how, where in your own life right now, you might be displaying some of the traditions that you learned as a child, maybe Christmas traditions, Thanksgiving traditions, summertime traditions. We all have these things that we remember fondly as a child, perhaps. Not everyone has fond memories of traditions. But if you do, how you have taken those and applied them to your current life. And then I've been able to see how I took traditions and I moved them into my own life. And now I watch my own children teaching those traditions to their children. So it's a really fascinating house when you start to really look at how things pass from family members down the line, right? How we can see both the highest and the best and some of the darkest and the worst of traits in families get passed on, right? This is, again, like I said, the house of mother, but maybe we can also put in parentheses nurturer, right? Just so we don't think it's only the mother, but it usually represents the mother. And so if we look at it as the mother and we see it maybe in a house like Sagittarius, maybe mother was an adventurer, an explorer. She didn't spend much time at home with the kids. Or how the mother nurtured the kids was by taking them on adventures, even if it was teaching them foreign languages or about foreign cultures, or maybe it's a family that does a lot of travel. So the sign on the cusp of the fourth house tells you a lot about how that mothering instinct is going to come into play. I often have seen in my past doing readings with families that there are very tight fourth house connections in family members. And it might be as easy as this. My my rising sign is Cancer. My daughter has her moon in Cancer in her fourth house. Connected, right? Connected there. And my sons have their moons in Gemini. Connected. I'm a Gemini. So we see these patterns that develop in families that are moving that energy down the line, right? So we're connected through our charts. I once did a chart of a family of witches, of pagans, of Wiccan uh, spiritualists, and the whole family of women mostly had their Plutos either in the fourth house or in Cancer, which would be the ruling sign of the fourth house, or their moons in that fourth house or in Cancer. It was amazing to see. And even the men in the family, they had one brother also had that very tight connection to the family. So we see the continuation of family lines, family dramas, family traumas, and also the family wins, right? The things that make the family run and go forward. The fourth house is an angular house. We have the rising sign, which is the first angle. The first house is on an angle. The fourth house represents another angle. It is called the nadir, or sometimes called the IC, and that is a sensitive point. It is highly sensitive. Any planets that you have near the fourth house cusp are very powerful, as is the ruler of the sign that is on your fourth house. We have to connect the dots. We have to look and see how those guys play together. Signs and planets on the fourth house give us insight into the attitudes that you have on home and domesticity and nurturing and caring for others in the family. Are you someone who flies far from the family, or are you someone who stays planted very close to home? Right? Those kinds of things that we can look at based on what is on your fourth house cusp. Transiting planets through the fourth house encourage us to invest in ourselves, right? To really invest in the things that make us stronger, to look at our foundations, our personal infrastructure, right? And how are we geared? You know, are our finances taken care of? Is our house falling down around us and we need to do something about it, right? So transiting planets there will bring up things about the fourth house for us to take care of. This is a house that also talks about life cycle. So from the birth to old age life cycle. So this brings life beginnings to life endings via that whole aging process. So in the fourth house, you might see how it is that you will age. Is it going to be gracefully? Are you going to be kicking and screaming to the end? Also, how are you going to be nurtured at the end of your life into old age? So we're looking at retirement, old age, and your final resting place in that fourth house, choosing, of course, to look at it from that point of view or not. Now, let's look down at some of the other things that we can think about in the fourth house. It brings our personal self to the home, right? It brings our personal self to the home. It grounds our divinity into the physical, right? So it's a grounding place. Home is a sanctuary. It is a safe zone, or should be, right? That's what we're trying to create, is a safe place, our sacred ground, if you will. Right? What is your sacred ground, and how do you upkeep that sacred ground? Many of us grew up in not so easy home life in our young days, right? So how did you learn to support yourself, or how did you self-nurture? How did you self-soothe, right? That's also shown through planets in that fourth house and the sign on that fourth house. A space of comfort that nurtures your sense of self. Many people did not have that when they were being raised. Many children right now do not have that safe zone or that feeling of being nurtured. So how is it that we reach out and do that? How can we help our own children feel safe and nurtured? And how can we help others in other families feel safe and nurtured, all through that fourth house? Family history, ancestry, genealogy, our heritage, all through that fourth house. Caring for our elders. What are our views on old age? Do we relegate our elders into old folks' homes? right? Or is that something that you will choose as an elder yourself? Or is your family unit very strong and you are very caring for one another? And it is also the house of the physical structures that we think of as home. So the house, right? The literal house and real estate. So it has the more mundane aspects as well as the more intangible things, the family lineage, that kind of thing, the ancestral lines. So the fourth house is packed with juiciness. It has a lot of really good qualities here. It can tell you a lot about what it is that you seek for comfort, and a lot about your childhood and how you managed to grow up despite in some cases your parents, and even how you feel nurtured enough from your parentage to live your life now. So it's really an important place. Questions about the fourth house? Let's go back here. Courtney, Camilla. Camilla says, and we also have Gemini suns. Interesting. So we have the same sun, same moon. Fascinating. Are you my twin? My secret twin? All right, Sylvester. It makes sense because me and my mom are close. Her sun sign is Libra. So it makes me, so what just popped in my head for you, Sylvester? Oh, yeah. And I know we do this. What burdens are you carrying for your mother? Right, think about that. What burdens are you carrying that you've padded in your body for your mother? From your love for your mother, how did you learn to take on her burdens? And how can you now maybe release yourself from some of that? It's not your job to carry that. Um, and there are other ways to look at that, but that's just what jumped in my head as soon as I read that. Augustina, still, I would like to add our female lineage is the most influential in our lives, where we most have to do work to release generational, let's say, issues. I would say that is, there is something to be said about that, Augustina, but there's also the lineage of the power that the feminine has, and how through history, right, the natural sort of pendulum swing of energy, we move from the matriarchal to the patriarchal. Now we're in the process of swinging back. Hopefully we're not headed right to matriarchal, that we find ourselves in a balancing of those energies. So the fourth house could be a place for us not only to tap into the lineage of the matriarchy in your life, but the patriarchal part of your life as well. And how can you bring all of that into a balance? Augustina, I have moon in Sag, and my mother and grandmother are Sag. Yeah, see, it's really fascinating when you really look at the charts of the people closest to you. So your parents, your siblings, your own children, your spouse even often has some real tight connections to your own astrology chart. And I just think it's so fascinating when we're able to look at that. Taylor, it's so cool seeing those connections. It's my favorite thing. Yep. Loanne, Mars in my fourth with Virgo. So what supports you? Routine, right? Having an uncluttered life, maybe an uncluttered house. Routine and definitely health regimens would help keep you supported. Mars moving through here, of course, maybe causing you to take some action. Maybe you want to move. Maybe your environment isn't supportive of where you are, Loanne. And last I heard, you were in Oregon. I don't know if that's where you were living or if you were just visiting on vacation. So I'm not sure where you actually live, but checking in and seeing, okay, is there something about either this home, or maybe you feel really at home and it very much supports you. And Mars isn't doing anything to you except reinforcing that, right? Mars isn't all negative in this case. Remember, right now we're revisiting our goals and our plans, right? That reimagination of how life could be. So Mars retrograde, not necessarily killing us. It is helping us with finding those places where we hold resistance, perhaps, or where we have issues that we need to revisit in our lives, where we've been hesitant to jump in and do anything about it. All right, so Pleiadian-Earth energy of the day. Today is 9 transcending. 9 transcending is always interesting to me. Harmony is the energy of the 9. And right, it shows us where we're not in harmony first. and then triggers us to try to harmonize different points of view. It asks the question, how can we bring more harmony into our relationships, into our lives, into society, which society right now is kind of not harmonious, and there's some work there for us to be done. And we really can't make society become harmonious, but we can start to work on our own selves and bring harmony into our own lives, which then, as an energetic, creates space for others to come into that energetic harmony. So today's about that. That is our universal energy of the day. Tomorrow is, or today, the earth energy for the day is transcending. In the Mayan calendar, that was Kimi, and it was a representation usually of the vulture, or sometimes it was an owl, different symbols, but it was literally kind of like picking the bones, so that you take with you what works and you use what you have in a way that's supporting you, and you let go of the rest, right? You leave the rest behind. So it really embodies and encompasses our ability to move forward, and also to use the gift of discernment in knowing what to take with you and what's not worth taking with you, right? So it really kind of dovetails with this whole new moon aspect, or this whole Virgo energy aspect, using that gift of discernment to really find the truth, the capital T truths, not the ones that we think are true, right? Not our opinions, but our real truths, the real truth of the world, of the illusion of the world, right? The illusion that there is this fighting going on, that there's division. All of these things are just a play on a screen or on a stage that we're enacting. And in any moment, as the writer of the screenplay, we can change it, right? Change the screenplay. Notice and value our differences today, right? Notice and value them. And then, they're equal, right? They're equal. You're not righter than I'm right. We're just different. Right? That's the thing that we come to here in transcending energy, acceptance of the differences, right? And that not making the other wrong. Just because you believe one way doesn't mean the other way is wrong. Just because the other way believes one way doesn't mean that they are making you wrong. So an interesting, huge lesson for all of us in these crazy days that we're living through right now. Really evident here in the US as we move into an election that is just sure to be crazy, crazy, crazy. And all I can say is expect the unexpected for that period of time. There we have it. You've got the new moon. You're ready for tomorrow's new moon. You know about the fourth house. You know about today's Pleiadian energy. Tomorrow we'll have Pia and Cullen with us. They can talk to us about the 10 energy of the day tomorrow. They can talk to us about the shadow energy, about 2021 and what to expect in the new calendar. They'll tell us how to get that calendar and get their books. So I'm really excited for that. Any last questions, Asa, that I need to deal with? Question, you read it, was going to send. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Asa. So I think that is it for me today. Let me take one last look here. Loanne, you so described me, and things to think about. Thank you. You're very welcome. Let's just all together here take a moment just to send a wish of wellness and ease and protection out to our friends here in our community who are suffering either from wildfire issues or flooding issues or health issues or Mars retrograde issues, relationship issues. Let's just send blessings to all and hope that everybody has a beautiful day and a day of ease, a day of peace. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out and ask them. And I can't wait until tomorrow. I think I will see you all then. Take care and bye for now.